We have visited Portugal 4 times and can give you up-to-date information on costs. And let me tell you, this place is as captivating as ever. From the cliff-laden coastlines of the Algarve and the Benagil caves to the picturesque villages inland, Portugal offers a lot to do and see without breaking the bank. Whether you stay in major cities or remote villages, we're here to show you what you can expect in terms of costs and how you can best stretch your dollars for an incredible experience in Portugal.
Let's kick things off with accommodation. Portugal has a fantastic selection of accommodation, from budget hostels to luxury hotels. Larger cities like Lisbon and Porto offer a little bit more choices in accommodation types, with a lot of mid-range properties and higher-end hotels. But more remote areas have more things like B&Bs and vacation rentals. Costs can obviously vary depending on location, as well as what time of season you visit. One thing we want you to keep in mind is that for remote areas and staying in vacation rentals, you'll likely require a car rental, which is going to add an extra cost. So your accommodation's location might seem like something you can skimp on to save money, but in reality, it just shifts the costs elsewhere, either to public transportation or to the car rentals. We've stayed in private properties in the countryside, which tend to be isolated, so we really needed a car. One thing we recommend for everybody when they're booking accommodation in the bigger cities is to book in advance if you're going to be there during the peak season, because not only will you have more availability, but you'll be able to get better deals. Now, the prices that we're quoting are for peak season because that's when most people are traveling. But you can definitely find better deals in the off-season or shoulder season. We've made the mistake of waiting to the last minute to book, and it's definitely cost us hundreds of dollars. If we had booked months or even a year in advance, we would have had a lot more savings and would have saved a lot more dough on accommodations.
It's one of the best recommendations that we can give you is to try and book a year in advance, and you're going to save a lot of money. In high season, all of the best hotels also fill up quickly, or all of the most affordable hotels fill up quickly, so you're going to be stuck with most of the expensive hotels if you book at the last minute. For those on a budget, you can expect to pay about $45 a night in places like Porto and Lisbon for hostels and dorm rooms and some budget hotels.
If you're looking for more mid-range accommodations, they come in about $120 to $150 a night. And if luxury is up your alley, then those prices are going to start at around $180 and can go up to $400 or more per night.
Next up is transportation. If you're in the cities, you might not even need public transport. If you stay right downtown, you can just walk everywhere. Places like Lisbon and Porto are very walkable. If you want to get around by local bus and metro or trains, they can be as low as €2 per trip.
Yeah, that's pretty cheap.
Yes. We found Ubers and taxis to be very economical, and they were a great way to get around cities and to and from the airport. Airport transfers with an Uber cost us only around €20 and even less in some places. Oh, another great thing to keep in mind is to see if your hotel has shuttles from the airport, because that can sometimes be one of the most expensive things for transportation, is getting to your hotel from the airport. So a lot of times they include a shuttle, so take a look at that.
For those planning longer stays or day trips to remote areas, consider renting a car. When you're looking at the cost for a car rental, it can be about $10 a day, but it really does go up at peak season, where your car rental could cost you up to $30 a day from Lisbon.
One thing to expect when you rent a car in Portugal is you will have to pay extra for a collision damage waiver. This is mandatory, so you will notice that is a little more money. Make sure you have a credit card that has insurance included, or we also use Booking.com and we pay a flat fee for insurance because sometimes the insurance on the car can be far more expensive than the daily rental.
Now, for train travel between cities like Lisbon and Porto, you can book in advance for less than $20. And the same rules apply for those car rentals. If you book well in advance, you'll definitely find the better deals.
And let's not forget our flight to Portugal. Round-trip flights obviously vary depending on where you're coming from. But we did some research, and from the US, you can expect to pay anywhere between $500 to $1,000 depending on your departure city and your arrival city.
Yeah, for example, a flight from New York City to Porto is going to cost you anywhere from 500 to 800 bucks return. If you're going from London to Porto, like from London in the UK, you can expect to pay about 100 to 150 bucks for a round trip ticket on a lower budget airline. And it can be even cheaper from continental Europe. For example, from Rome to Porto, you can spend anywhere between $80 to $120 for a return ticket.
All of these prices are for economy class tickets as well. Of course, it's going to go up if you do premium economy or business class, but we wanted to give you some base rates about where you can expect flights to start.
Now let's talk about food. Whether you choose fine dining every day, I wish, or to stick to grocery shopping and cooking at self-catered accommodation, Portugal is comparably cheap for its region when it comes to food.
And the best thing is to eat Portuguese cuisine. There's a lot of international places to eat as well, but Portuguese cuisine is delicious and it's very affordable. A meal at an inexpensive restaurant costs only around $10, and that includes a hearty main dish and a drink. If you're on a tight budget, you can get by on a food budget of $15 a day. But that is by cooking your own meals in a hostel and eating at budget-friendly places. If you want to actually eat out a little bit more and have a mid-range budget, you can expect to spend about $40 a day. And we recommend making sure that you book a hotel that has a breakfast included. This really can save you a lot of money.
Definitely. And if you're into that luxury food experience, that's when you need to start to budget around $100 or more a day per person. And speaking of foodie destinations, some of the foods you don't want to miss out on are local favorites like pastel de nata, piri-piri chicken, bacalhau. Your taste buds will thank you for eating the local dishes, and it will also save you money.
When it comes to activities, this varies a lot as well. If you want to book your helicopter flights and private sailing trips, of course it's going to be more. But Portugal has plenty of free and low-cost activities. You can lounge on the beach, and beaches are free to enter, and you can explore many historical cities for free as well.
Yeah, most of the tourist areas are located along the coastline, with the main attractions located on the waterfront. Like Deb said, the beaches have free entry to swim and to sunbathe, so you can spend tons of time here, and it's a great place to do it in Portugal.
And the sun umbrellas and lounges are much cheaper than other European places like Greece and Spain. You could have a full day on the beach for free, or if you wanted to spend one of those loungers, you could spend $20. That includes a lounge and an umbrella.
Not bad for a day of activities. There are also lots of free things to do in the cities. The old towns are free to explore. You can go up to the miradors. Churches and cathedrals are free to entry in most cities, and the old city walls are always free to stroll. Even entry fees, when I think about it, are more reasonable in Portugal than other European cities. But if you're into paid activities, budget around $20 for entrance fees to attractions, $40 for half-day tours, and up to $100 for full-day experiences per person. For example, a Douro Valley boat tour with a wine tasting from Porto costs about $80.
For those on a real budget, you can easily enjoy Portugal for $10 a day per person by sticking to free attractions, admiring the architecture, and even going window shopping along the pedestrian streets. I found a lot of that to be a tourist attraction in their own right.
Now, if you're on a mid-range budget, $50 a day allows you for a good mix between free and paid activities. If you're looking at a luxury budget, well, then you can start yourself at least $150 a day for private tours and skip the line tickets. Now that you have a general gist of all the different categories when budgeting to visit Portugal, let's do a summary. Most people visit Portugal for about a week, so we'll total everything up for you and give you a rough estimate of what you'll need for your stay. Accommodation in Portugal is at its highest cost in the more popular tourist destinations like the cities of Faro, Lisbon, and Porto, and their prices in peak season are really at the top, or they actually sell out completely, leaving you with much fewer options at higher prices.
In the popular tourist destinations, though, you'll have a lot of choices. You'll have a mix of hostels, There's apartment rentals, mid-range, and luxury hotels.
Yeah, when you're outside of those popular areas, you're going to be limited to B&Bs and vacation rentals. So just keep that in mind when you're booking your accommodation. Here's what we would budget for a week at each budget level.
For budget accommodation, you can go as low as $280 to $300 per week.
For mid-range, you're looking at anywhere between $700 to $1,000 for the week for your accommodation. And if you're in that luxury market, you can start at $2,100 and go as high as you possibly can.
For transportation, I would average $15 per day per person. This is going to fluctuate, obviously. Some days you won't even travel at all, while others you'll be doing more long distance travel on trains and taking more taxis. But $15 will cover most things. That will be enough to cover any car rentals or metro rides or any of those Uber rides. And that would total up to $105 per week.
Now, food is a big one. Aside from, I would say, flights and accommodations, it's your biggest expense, or it can be, depending on how much you love to eat. Everyone knows that Portuguese food is amazing, so let's get into budgeting for it.
For those of you on a budget, you could do a week for around $105 a week. Seriously. Now, that is, though, if you go to the grocery store and you purchase food and cook it back at your hostel, or if you eat at budget locations.
But if you want to add a couple days where you're going to eat out or try some Portuguese specialties, that would throw you in the mid-range. That would be anywhere from like $280 to like $300 a week per person. And that way you could try some of the local specialties.
And for those of you on a luxury budget, you can start at about $700 for the week, $100 a day per person to eat out at luxury places. Portugal is quite reasonable, so you will get some great dinners for that amount of money. Obviously, you can spend more, especially if you're going to any Michelin star restaurants. We went to a Michelin star restaurant in Guimarães, and we blew the budget for the week in one night.
Obviously, activities are a huge part of why you're visiting Portugal in the first place, so we suggest not to compromise if you can help it. You know, have a list of, say, non-negotiable attractions and activities that you want to experience while you're visiting in Portugal, and make sure that those make the list.
For those of you budget traveling, I think that you could actually get away with $70 to $100 for the week. That's if you, for your week, did a bunch of free activities, going into churches and cathedrals and walking around the old towns, and then put in a couple of free city tours there and splurge on one of the tours that you wanted to take.
If you have more of a mid-range budget, that would be, say, anywhere from $350 to $400 for the week. You could easily squeeze in a couple of city tours or even boat tours and stuff like that if you're in Porto or even down in the Algarve. That should give you enough money to put those in. All the highlights that are on your list. So to summarize, when adding these all up, here's what to expect. For budget travelers, you can spend a week in Portugal for around $1,200, including flights, if you're taking a budget flight from New York. If you're on a mid-range budget, it's around $2,100. And for a luxury experience, well, let's allow a minimum of $4,600, but it can go way more depending on where you want to put all those luxury activities and food experiences.
Budgeting for Portugal is super easy. There are several factors to take into consideration. You want to think about whether you're going to stay in major cities or if you're going to be in more rural areas. Decide if you're going to do a lot of day trips to see the local culture or if you're just going to stick to the beaches and in your one area. And of course, you have to consider what kind of local cuisine you want to taste. Will you be doing wine tours?
Yeah, there is definitely a lot of variation, and your budget when visiting Portugal varies massively depending on your travel style and preferences. That being said, there is a tourism infrastructure to cater to all budget levels, which is a huge bonus when visiting Portugal.
Portugal is an amazing destination, offering something for every budget and every travel style. So we hope that this guide has helped you plan your trip and make the most of your adventure and have a good idea of what you are going to pay for your Portugal vacation.
And don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that bell for more travel tips and guides from the Planet D, because we put up new videos each week.
And check out our Portugal playlist for more advice on traveling to Portugal. We've been to Lisbon, Guimarães, Porto, Sintra, the Algarve, and all over the countryside.